So you admit that this increase could hit workers' pay?
I absolutely accept that wage growth may be weaker than it otherwise would have been. I think it was a difficult decision. The hardest decision in the budget yesterday was on national insurance. I wanted yesterday to get everything out into the open and be transparent about the decisions that I needed to make. I'm not going to be coming back with a budget like this in the future.
Let's unpack this. In the next few minutes, we'll break down the logic behind Reeves's tax plan and its devastating ripple effect. From small family farms to supermarket shelves, no one will escape the consequences of this misguided decision. Reeves proposes a 20% tax on agricultural assets over £1 million. On paper, it sounds fair. But the reality? It's a ticking time bomb for Britain's farmers. For many, their land is their livelihood, their future, and their pension rolled into one. They're not sitting on piles of cash. They're asset-rich but cash-poor. To put it into perspective, farmland in some areas is valued at £30,000 per acre. A modest 500-acre farm could easily be worth £15 million. That's 15 times the threshold for Reeves's tax. So when the taxman comes knocking for 20% of that value, where exactly is the money supposed to come from? Farmers can't simply sell off a field or two. Their land is the backbone of their business. This isn't just about farmers, it's about the entire countryside. If these farms are broken up or sold off to the highest bidder, what happens to rural communities? What happens to Britain's food production? The consequences are dire. We're not talking about a few wealthy landowners feeling the pinch. Early estimates suggest 60% of family farms could be at risk. That's not just a statistic. It's the potential dismantling of Britain's agricultural legacy. These policies reflect a shocking disconnect between Westminster policymakers and the realities of rural life. And then came an unlikely voice speaking up for farmers, Jeremy Clarkson. Once known as the host of Top Gear, Clarkson's transition to running Diddley Squat Farm has given him first-hand experience of the struggles British farmers face. When Clarkson took on Reeves during a live TV debate, it was electric. He called out her urban-centric view of agriculture and painted a vivid picture of the impact her policy would have. Farms forced to sell, workers losing jobs, and fields left fallow. His words weren't just critiques, they were a rallying cry for a sector that feels abandoned by those in power. Clarkson's personal story drove the point home. He shared how Reeves's tax policy would impact his own farm, his workers, and the broader farming community. This wasn't abstract policy anymore. It was about real people, real jobs, and a way of life under threat. Clarkson didn't hold back, calling Reeves's policy stupid and blinkered, and he wasn't alone. Social media lit up with praise for Clarkson, dubbing him a hero for speaking truth to power. Farmers rallied behind his words, sharing their own fears about the future. Reeves, meanwhile, found herself on the defensive. Public support for her inheritance tax policy began to crumble as people realised the full scope of its impact. The truth is, family farms aren't just businesses, they're legacies. They're the backbone of rural communities and the key to Britain's food security. Yet Reeves's policy threatens to dismantle this for short-term political gains. Let me leave you with this staggering statistic. Up to 60% of family farms could be at risk. That's thousands of livelihoods and entire communities thrown into uncertainty. And for what? A misguided attempt at economic fairness that only exposes how out of touch our leaders are with rural realities. The question now is whether the government will listen to the people who work the land, the farmers who fed this country for generations, or whether they'll continue to prioritise policies that appease urban voters and penalise rural communities. The stakes couldn't be higher. The future of Britain's countryside and our food security hangs in the balance. It's time to hold our leaders accountable and demand policies that protect farmers and preserve our agricultural heritage. Thank you for listening. Share this message, stand with our farmers, and fight for a fairer future for Britain's countryside. Let's hear what Jeremy Clarkson had to say to the BBC the other day.
Why are you here, Mr. Clarkson?
Well, because I'm here to support farmers.
Right. Are you angry?
It's difficult to be angry on somebody else's behalf. That's like being... Yes, no, I'm not angry on someone else's behalf.
Right. So it's not about you. It's not about your farm and the fact that you bought a farm to avoid inheritance tax.
Classic BBC there. Classic. Oh yeah. It's not the fact that I bought a farm to avoid inheritance tax. The fact.
You told the Sunday Times in 2021 that's why you bought it.
These people.
Sorry?
BBC. Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
I wanted a shoot. Okay? That's even worse to the BBC. I wanted a shoot, which comes with the benefit of not having to pay inheritance tax. Now I do. But people like me will simply put it in a trust. And so long as I live for 7 years, that's fine. And as my daughter said, you will live for 7 years. You might be in a deep freeze at the end of it, but you will live for 7 years. But it's incredibly time consuming to have to do that. And why should all these people have to do that? Why should they?
So one of the reasons Rachel Reeves says she brought this in is to stop wealthy people using it as a way
No,
of
that was the
avoiding-
only reason she did.
Well,
Why
no, the other reason was to raise money for public services. Well, have you
Are
seen?
you listening to this?
Have you tried to get a GP appointment lately?
Yes, I
Right.
just recently had a heart attack.
Okay, so you know it's tough.
Yes.
So where should they get the money from if it's not from farmers?
From farmers.
With
You hear that, everyone?
with
BBC
assets.
thinks you should be paying for everything.
Mrs. Clarkson,
Okay,
you
do
know
you
it's
know
not the
how many
BBC's
people
view.
pay inheritance tax in this country?
It's 4% of estates.
What?
4% of estates.
4% pay inheritance tax. 96% of the population of the UK does not pay inheritance tax.
Sure.
After this becomes law, 96% of farmers will.
Where have you got that figure from?
Who here, can I just ask, who here is going to be unaffected by these changes? No one.
Right. Where have you got
I
the
know.
96% figure
Well,
from?
you've got 96%. Well, the same place that Rachel Reeves does, from the middle of her head.
Right.
From the Sixth Form Debating Society that she was no doubt a member of.
Okay.
Which
So-
formed her opinions and yours.
I am not expressing opinions. I'm
You're sure?
literally asking you questions. You know that, Mr. Clarkson.
Right.
So, what is your message to this government?
Please back down, please.
And get the money from where?
Well, they've got 40 billion. I'll tell you where you get the... Walk into any of the offices around here. If you don't understand what somebody's job is, fire them.
And how
The civil
far-
service... Civil service is too top, you know that. I must get on.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. See you on the next one.